Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Chomping at the bit. Sitting here revved and ready to go on Friday at the EIB Network.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
And here's the telephone number you want to weigh in on things today, and I know you do. 800-282-2882. If you want to send an email, lrushbo@eibnet.us. You know what I'm going to do here to kick off, folks? I told you yesterday to stop watching the media, that you are not getting an accurate picture. The media is not even doing what they're doing. It's a bit of a stretch. They're not doing it for national consumption. They, of course, are, but it is really an inside the beltway focus here, because that's where power is in their minds, and that's where any effective change they want will take place. So the primary objective of the drive-by media is to flood the zone in the nation's capital with this never-ending barrage of Trump out of control, White House in chaos, all of this stuff, because the objective is to get rid of Donald Trump. But there's all kinds of news out there that, one, indicates it isn't having a dramatic effect outside the Beltway, and that incredibly good things are happening as a result of Trump's presidency. So I want to start on that note. I want to start on the positives, and we'll get into, by virtue of starting with the positives, we are, out of necessity, going to be exposing the drive-bys as they are operating. Now, this first. I did not believe this when I saw it. I was in stunned amazement when I saw this. I was watching CNN, and I want to thank God for making that happen, or I'd have missed this. I normally don't watch CNN. I've got it on here. But, I'm not really watching it. It's just there in case something happened at Fox and CNN on here. Rather than set this up, I just want you to listen to it. This is the info babe, Brooke Baldwin, who has, I'm sure her name recognition is skyrocketing nationwide because she's made so many appearances here recently. Now, she's on something 1 to 3 in the afternoon on CNN. And she had as her guest yesterday Chris Cillizza, our old buddy from the Washington Post, who has reported on us fairly and in quite complimentary ways on occasion. So we have no animus here. We have no prejudicial bias or any of that. It's just he left the Washington Post because he wanted to go to TV. The big money's in TV, in media. Well, outside of a couple in a radio show, but the big money is in TV. So he's gravitated over there. Yesterday afternoon on Newsroom, the program hosted by the info babe Brooke Baldwin, and she's talking with Cillizza about the Time magazine interview that Trump gave and that was published on Thursday. And they're discussing some of the observations in the article.
Everyone's talking about the 2 scoops of ice cream, but apparently this little nugget came out of this Time magazine piece where apparently the president gets 2 scoops, everyone else around the table gets 1, and no word if there were sprinkles.
Right. Well, the broader point here is that they were trying to make in the Time article is the White House staff has adapted to Donald Trump's taste. So when everyone else gets water, he gets a Diet Coke. When everybody gets 1 scoop of ice cream, he gets 2.
Folks, this is how, I don't know whether you call this insane, I don't know if it's rooted in hatred. This story is about how if you are invited to dinner at the White House, Trump gets treated specially and you don't. He gets a Diet Coke, you get water. When it comes time for dessert, he gets 2 scoops ice cream and you only get 1. And this is supposed to illustrate what a thoughtless, selfish, mean guy Trump is. That he hoards everything, that he doesn't treat his guests well. He gets Diet Coke, you get water. He gets 2 scoops ice cream, you get 1. You're not even asked if you want. This was a serious news item in Time magazine, the same place that told us boys and girls are born different. And it was judged to be so revealing and so indicative of the kind of mean guy Trump is that they talked about it on CNN yesterday. He gets 2 scoops, and you only get... Does anybody remember, outside of Michelle Obama's ludicrous school menu, does anybody remember details of dining in the White House with the Obamas? Of course not. They're losing it. They've lost it. And the evidence is abundant each and every day. Now, I've often said that one of the things the media does, and folks, this is crucial to understand. Attitudinal perception is a powerful thing. You've heard the phrase, perception is reality. What does it mean? It means that you can turn a lie into the truth. And that's the objective of the media every day. And one of the things, I want you to notice this, if you haven't already, if you deign to watch the drive-bys. I don't care, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, or the New York Times, if any of the drive-by media outlets, whenever they are reporting on a scandal that is involving Republicans, it happened in the case of the Indiana religious freedom law, what they do is report the story with a high degree, profound level of outrage that they make to look like is not theirs. They have found this outrage among all of you, that you are outraged, for example, over the Comey firing, that you are upset at all the chaos in the White House, that you want Trump gone, that you regret Trump being elected, you regret vote. The trick is, as they report this stuff, to make it look like they're not manufacturing or reporting their own opinion, emotion, anger. No, they are presumptively and arrogantly seeking to make everybody watching think they're just reporting what people all over the country think. And it isn't the case. I'm holding here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers evidence of this. Facebook interactions. There's a survey, research done of Facebook notes, trends, news lines, whatever. And the Comey firing has not gone viral. To people on Facebook, which is a lot of people, the Comey firing is less important than 7 other stories. There are 7 other stories that are being circulated, retransmitted, talked about. 7 stories much more important to Facebook users than the Comey firing. At the top of the list, the inauguration received much more attention and discussion on Facebook. The Republicans canceling Obamacare is number 2 on the list of stories that caused viral reaction on Facebook. The Trump travel bans are number 3. The Michael Flynn story, number 4. The House passing their version of the repeal Obamacare bill is number 5. The Syria strike, when we bombed Syria, is the next item on this list of things that caused Facebook to explode. The Rachel Maddow lie about how she had all of the details on Trump's tax returns is next. Comey being fired. Let me give you the numbers that are associated with this. It's based on 300-plus news organizations. Social Flow evaluated the Facebook reach of articles on major flashpoints by more than 300 news organizations within a few days of each event. 150,000 on the inauguration, 112,000 GOP cancels Obamacare, 108,000 for both the travel ban and the Flynn stories, 68,000 for the House version of Obamacare repeal, 57,000 for the Syria strike, 43,000 for the Rachel Maddow Trump tax story, 37,000 Comey being fired. My point is, it isn't viral out there. where the people who make the country work live. The Comey being fired story has not captivated the American people. They're not sitting on the edges of their seats. They're not tweeting. They're not Facebooking. They're not talking. They're not outraged. They're not doing anything to the level they were on many other issues. Square that with the fact that you can't find any other news for the past 3 days than the Comey firing. That's all you're seeing in the drive-by media. And yet, ho-hum, the not-so-viral Comey firing. It is a great example of the disproportion, the out-of-proportion reporting by the media. So in this, and many of you go, Rush, that just can't be. I would think the nation's got to be so tired of hearing this. They're tired of it. It's everywhere. That's the point, folks. The consumers of news are not making the story viral. They're not talking about it with everybody. They're not reacting anywhere near the media wants you to think they are, which is the point. Do not forget, one of the objectives of coverage like this is to make you think that your neighbors and your town and the whole country think and feel the identical way the media is reporting this. And in many cases, it's not the case whatsoever. Audio soundbite starting at the top. David Asman last night, Fox Business Network's Making Money show. He was, filling in. And he had a guest, the editorial director from the, Where's this guy from? Washington Examiner. Asman loves my theory that it is the drive-bys leading this show and leading the media, the Democrats, around rather by the nose.
I love Rush Limbaugh's description of how he thinks everybody's got it wrong. Most people think it's Democrats influence the media. He says it's exactly the opposite, that the media is actually now in charge and really kind of guiding all of the various political narratives that are picked up by politicians. Do you see any of that?
Hugo Gurdon is the editorial director, Washington Examiner. Here's his reaction.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. The media are immensely powerful, and they have been described by the president as, his enemy or the enemy of the American people, and to some extent, they are proving him right. There's a lot of what is going on in media reporting which shows a distinct animosity towards him. I think that even if one doesn't get to impeachment, there's no downside on this for the Democrats, because they are undermining the president's ability to govern. And if they can make him a failed president, that's pretty much as good, because then they can win in 2020.
It's not the Democrats. It is not the Democrats undermining the president's ability to govern. It's the media trying to do that, not the Democrats. The Democrats are tagging along for the ride. The Democrats can't stop Trump. The Democrats don't have the votes to stop Trump. The Democrats couldn't do a thing here if it weren't for the media whipping everybody into a frenzy. Do you think Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi going to the microphone a couple times a day telling you what they think about Trump is going to change public opinion, going to roadblock Trump's administration? But when 24/7 the media is lying to you with fake news story after fake news story and telling you how the Trump White House is out of control and everybody hates everybody and nobody knows what anybody's doing and Trump's incompetent, a steady diet of that will do two things. It will shape public opinion, and it will embolden the Democrats and tell them how to go out and handle this. So the media starts this ball rolling with all of this coverage and opinionating, and then the Democrats get their talking points from the media and go to the microphones and repeat what the media has said or get close to it, and that's how the story is built and extended. But my point here is that the Democrats are not originating this. Now, the Democrats and the media are the same people, but the Democrat Party on its own does not have the ability to do what the media is doing. Now, you may think it's 6 of one, half dozen or another, because if the media, if the Democrats, if any Democrat, like Schumer, Pelosi, whoever went out there and started raising hell, yep, the media be right there reporting it. But the coordination, the theming, the building of the narrative, the talking points, it all comes from the media. It's not coming from the Democrats in the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party electorally is a failing concern that the media is not. And if the Democrats didn't have the media, well, it's silly to discuss it because it'll never be the case. You want an illustration? We have another montage, and this is largely after the White House press briefing yesterday, conducted by Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. They are from CNN, ABC, and I want you to listen to how they all describe, this was from yesterday afternoon, last night, after the Sarah Huckabee Sanders press briefing.
The Trump White House is facing a major credibility crisis.
I don't even know if the White House understands that this is something of a crisis of credibility.
What we have here now is a White House in a crisis of credibility.
A self-inflicted crisis, and there is a yawning credibility gap.
This suggests a real crisis of credibility.
It's a crisis of credibility here.
What about credibility here?
This is how it works. There's not one Democrat, by the way, in that montage. That's all media. It's all media. Josh Earnest is a former press secretary for Obama. He's now an analyst, I think, at MSNBC. The names are Chris Cuomo, son of Mario the Pious, Jake Tapper, David Chalian, I don't know how you pronounce it, CNN, Josh Earnest, Athena Jones, Brooke Baldwin, and David Muir. It's all media. And they're all saying the same thing. And they weren't clued in by anybody on the Democrat Party what to say. They're starting the ball rolling. They're the ones setting a tone. They're establishing narratives. They're creating talking points. Democrats are following along. Job claims in the United States have hit a 28-year low. Did you know that? You seen that? Unemployment rate down to 4.4%. That's where it was during George W. Bush. When we were smoking, jobless claims 28-year low. It's not an isolated story. Could it perhaps be related to this? Mexican border apprehensions hit a 17-year low. Isn't it amazing what happens when you have a strong, unwavering leader who claims he's going to enforce the law? And I'm speaking of Trump and Jeff Sessions. Just the threat to build a wall is already reducing illegal immigration. The attempt to get here illegally, it's down over 70%. You think that might have something to do with the jobless rate hitting a 28-year low? The arrests of illegal immigrants crossing a southwest border by Border Patrol agents decreased again in April. This is the 5th straight month of decline. The total apprehensions of illegal border crossers hit a 17-year low. From CNN Money, OPEC has asked a favor of other major producers. Please stop pumping so damn much oil and help us balance the market. They're primarily asking us, the United States, OPEC, which during Democrat administrations has owned us. But now we are producing oil. We may be the largest reserve market in the world, now with the discovery of shale and the ability to frack and get it out of the ground. Let's talk about being energy independent. Old politicians for 35 years have been promising. Now it is happening under the Trump administration. OPEC, please don't pump so much oil. We're dying over here. And there's more. I'm not trying to sweep anything under the rug here. I'm not trying to be falsely optimistic. I'm giving you the truth. Don't worry, folks. We're going to get down and dirty here as the program unfolds. Hang tight. Speaking of that CNN, you want to, I don't even know how you characterize this, nitpick? To actually do a segment on how mean Trump is and how selfish Trump is, because at dinner, Trump gets 2 scoops of ice cream and his guests only get 1. Can I share with you a counter view to this? And it has to do with manners and culture and a couple of other things. When you are an accomplished host, there are a number of things that you know and do by virtue of decency, commonality, manners, and what have you. Also, when you're host and you are your own place, the White House, you have your own staff, they know your preferences, and they provide them without you asking. So if Trump likes 2 scoops of ice cream, then that's what's going to appear. But one of the standard rules of hosting is that there are amounts and quantities provided in a, what's the word? It's not reasonable, but you just assume what the mass desires would be, and you always have the if the guest wants 2 scoops, the guest can ask. If the guest wants 2 entrees, the guest can ask. If the guest wants a Diet Coke, the guest can ask. There's no alcohol served in the White House because Trump doesn't drink. He's never drank. He's never smoked. So they're doing this nitpick here when Trump gets 2 scoops of ice cream and his guests don't. What a meanie. What a selfish. He's not even aware this guy's so focused. Have you heard the story about Nixon, what the media reported about Nixon in the White House? I'll bet you haven't heard this. When Nixon had guests in the White House, Nixon did drink. Nixon drank a lot. Nixon had wine every night with dinner. When he had guests in the White House, he served them wine. But the mainstream media did a story, and I don't know if this is true, but the mainstream media did a story a couple times that Nixon served his guests cheap, rot-gut, off-the-counter red wine while he was served Bordeaux, most likely Chateau Margaux, that was wrapped in a towel so that his guests could not see what he was getting. No idea if it's true, but it was reported. It's the kind of thing that the media reports that's designed to drive somebody crazy, which, make no mistake, they're also trying to do that. They are trying to drive Trump crazy. Now, if I were Trump, I would already be crazy with whoever is leaking all this stuff out of my White House. Because there is no question that place is leaking like a sieve. And it has to be people close to him. It's not just the deep state. It's not just people in the administrative state. There have to be people in Trump's inner circle who are leaking. Now, in order to find out who, you start going down a list of names and ask you, why would they leak? To what end? What is the objective here? And I will give you the answer. There are many others, but I'm going to give you the main overriding answer for all of these questions, and that is Washington, D.C. is the place you go if you want to acquire raw power. It's the place you go if you want to acquire wealth. It's not the only place for that, but in terms of power, that's it. And if you have a falling out with your boss, if there's friction within the staff and you happen to be on the outs, one of the ways you get even with the boss, in this case Trump, is to start leaking things. You would leak in order to ingratiate yourself with the media. You would leak in order to buy yourself either no coverage or favorable coverage. You would leak maybe if an enemy of Trump was offering you riches and power if you lose your job because you're discovered as a leaker. It's a cesspool. It is insidious. And it is why I said yesterday that much of this that is happening is due to disloyalty to Trump in his inner circle. And these people are leaking. The leaks are so profound, the Hill.com even has a story on it today about how the leak is like a flood every day. There's more leaks coming out of there. They know who it is. Of course, they're not going to identify the leakers. So when you hear about this, you say, well, my gosh, Donald Trump, nobody in his business is leaked. People that worked for him at Trump Enterprises, a Trump organization, nothing but love, praise, adoration. There was none of this kind of behavior. Why here? Was Trump chosen the wrong people? Did Trump not know the kind of people to choose? Did Trump not understand the lay of the land? I don't know. I mean, those are all valid questions, but there's no question that there is massive, massive leaking, and it's not just from Trump enemies. Well, I know that's people you wouldn't think are Trump enemies. Are there people on the Trump inner circle who are there because they had the ability to get them there because they have influence with Trump, who may not actually like Trump, for instance? Are there people on Trump's staff who were promised something and don't think they've gotten it, and other people have, and their noses are out of joint, and so the way they get even is leak against the president for mistreating them? All of these things are possible. But something like this or variations of this has to be going on there. And the purpose is to undermine Trump. And you would say, why would people who he's asked to be in his inner circle, which would be an honor to have that kind of access to power, to be involved in this revolutionary administration that has a chance of changing it, why would you want to sabotage it? My friends, all valid questions. But the answer is the pursuit of raw personal power. Human beings are human beings. Doesn't take much to get you think they know everything. People who think they're the greatest people on earth get their nose out of joint when they're ignored, or when their advice is not taken, or when other people's advice is preferred. You never know. But places like this, you couldn't, if you work at a small business or corporation, you get mistreated. I mean, you can't leak and have it hurt anybody or help you, because you really have to be in the executive circle to do that. You wouldn't be privy to the information, the data that would be interesting to anybody to leak. But that's not the case in the Trump inner circle. Everybody in the Trump inner circle fully informed and up to speed on everything going on. Plus, they don't have to be truthful about it. They can lie. Call up the media, tell a lie. And the minute a leaker starts leaking, the media loves him and circles the wagons and will protect that leaker forever. Leakers are never exposed. You ever wonder why there were no leaks, or certainly nothing comparable, coming out of the Clinton White House for 8 years, or the Obama White House? There weren't even any tell-all books written about the Clinton administration, other than a couple of FBI agents. But Clinton inner circle, Obama inner circle, zilch, zero, nada, not a single leak anybody can remember, nothing of any great consequence, no tell-all books. Why is that? And why is it happening to Trump? These questions answer themselves. And it is... It has to do with Trump being an outsider and hiring insiders to be on his staff. Trump's anti-establishment, anti-globalist, but he's got a lot of establishment and globalist types in his inner circle. They would love nothing more than to, within their own circle, be seen as responsible for taking Trump down. Because I'm going to tell you something, folks. What these leaks... The purpose of these leaks is the destruction of the Trump presidency. And the purpose for the destruction of the Trump presidency is not just to destroy Trump. It is to dissuade anybody else from ever trying what Trump tried here. This is a message. This is what's going to happen to you if you try to become president outside the establishment. If you try to come in here and take over our little operation, if you're some ruling class staff puke and you come in here and try to act like you're in our club, this is what's going to happen to you. All kinds of things wrapped up in this. And even despite all of this, Trump doesn't appear to be cowering. He doesn't appear to be Fearful doesn't appear to be moderating, modifying. He's still tweeting. He's still attacking. He's still confronting them. And he's still pursuing his agenda, such as OPEC begging us to stop producing oil. Unemployment numbers, the 28-year low. Angela Merkel. Germany intends to increase its defense spending in coming years to meet NATO's target of 2% of GDP. Angela Merkel announced yesterday. I only mention this to point out that Trump is the only one who's demanded that. Trump is the one who says, everybody in NATO, get out of NATO if you're not going to pay your fair share. We're tired of it. We're not going to pay your share and ours. Now ask yourself a question. Angela Merkel decided to fess up and pledge Germany's membership fee, which is 2% of your GDP on defense in your own country. She decided yesterday to do this. Why? Why would Angela Merkel, if she's watching the news in the United States, why would she do anything Trump wanted? Why wouldn't Angela Merkel be sitting there thinking Trump's going to be history in a couple of months? Why wouldn't Angela Merkel say, I don't have to do what Trump asked me to do. I don't have to react to Trump. Trump's history. Trump's gone. I can see what's... Why would she do this? Why would Border Patrol agents ramp up apprehension and deportation if Trump's going to be going places he's history, the media's won? Why are all these people reacting like Trump's going to be there for a while and don't want to end up on his bad side? Let me tell you what the next thing the media is going to have an absolute fit over. It's already begun, and it is because of a tweet that the president sent out earlier today. Now, I didn't see the president's tweet when I first heard about this. I heard something else. I heard a report that the president had warned James Comey that there had better not be tapes of our conversation. That's what I heard. I don't remember where. It was during show prep today. Very important here. What I heard, what I read was that Trump was threatening Comey. Comey better hope there are no tapes of our conversations. The way that was reported and the way I interpreted that was that maybe Comey had secretly taped Trump and that Trump had found out about it and was livid and was warning Comey, you better not use it. That's the way it was reported. It turns out it's the exact opposite. Here is Trump's tweet. James Comey better hope there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. Well, I didn't have it presented to me that way. The way it was presented to me, the way it was reported was that Comey had perhaps taped Trump when they'd had dinner, and that Trump found out about it and was threatening Comey, you better not release tapes of our dinner or else. And that's the exact opposite. Because if anything, Trump is doing the taping and is warning Comey, if you go out there and start lying about it, I can disprove what you say, so you better be careful. That's what Trump's tweet really means. Now, I think it's a fascinating misrepresentation. I don't know if any of you, when you first heard about Trump's references to tapes of conversation with Comey, I don't know how you first heard it, but I first heard it. It was reported specifically that Comey might have taped it. But why? Because Comey knows Trump's insane. Comey knows Trump's a lunatic. Comey knows he can't trust Trump. So Trump asked him to dinner, so Comey goes in there, his iPhone's taping things to guard against Trump going out there and lying, like Comey saying that he cleared him 3 times. That's not what happened. The New York Times has a story about Comey having dinner with Trump. Trump sees the story and then tweets, James Comey better hope there are no tapes of our conversation before he starts leaking to the press. So what this has done... Sorry, I have to laugh. I'm sorry, I can't. Snurdly says he can't believe I'm laughing at a time of crisis. I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess it's an explosion because it's got everything the media wants. It's got Nixon, it's got the tapes, it's got Woodward and Bernstein, it's got Deep Throat maybe. It's going to have everything here. All we need is Hope Hicks and an 18-minute gap in the tape. The media is so desperate to relive Watergate. Journalists who are practicing journalism today who were not even alive during Watergate think this is their Watergate. And what is Watergate? It's when you get a president. It's when you destroy him. And so now Trump's alluding to the fact he may have been taping. Sorry, folks. I don't know. So, folks, right when we went to the break, I'm laughing about Trump. Because I'll tell you what's happened here. With Trump saying he might be taping people in the White House, the media's gotten as hysterical as they were over his tax returns, as hysterical as they are over the Russians and firing Comey and that NBC Access tape where he talked about Pusai. They're just... So I'm watching CNN. As soon as we went to the break, CNN runs a graphic at the bottom of the screen. Source says, Comey not concerned about any tapes. So somebody reached out to go, are you worried? Are you worried? Trump's maybe got tapes. Are you worried? No, you can tell CNN. I'm not worried. Who do you think the source is? It's Comey. Not worried about any tapes. I'm sorry, folks. I marvel at the ability to drive these people crazy. They think they're driving Trump's crazy, and they may be, but I'm telling you, they're losing it too. They're literally out of their minds now. We're watching a descent into insanity. It's Jane Eyre right in front of us here. I tell you, folks, you want to know why I'm laughing at Trump? Call me better hope there are no tapes of our conversations. You remember back during the campaign when nobody could find the 30,000 emails? There were 30,000 Hillary Clinton emails nobody could find, and Trump got tired of everybody asking about it, so Trump said, hey, Russia, maybe the Russians can find the tapes. If you're listening, maybe you can find the third. And the drive-bys went insane.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Trump's out there cracking jokes. They don't get it. They have no sense of humor. Trump is mocking the fact that everybody knows where these emails are that Hillary has and nobody will produce them. So he asked the Russians to find them, and the stupid idiots in the media tried to use that as proof that there was collusion between Trump and the Russians over Hillary's emails. If there's any foundation, I say that with very loose intentions, if there's any foundation that these drive-bys think that Trump was colluding with the Russians, it dates back to when Trump asked the Russians to find Hillary's emails. That was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. It still is. And so now Trump tweets, James Comey better... James Comey better... Why? Look at this. I can see Trump sitting here at his phone or wherever he tweets. This stuff out. James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversation before he starts leaking to the press. So CNN source says Comey not worried about any tapes. You know, they're all breathlessly waiting for the White House press briefing. And Fox has their own graphic. The Fox graphic is awaiting White House briefing after President warns Comey about leaks to media. Then there's another tweet under that one from earlier this morning. Trump tweeted, as a very active president with lots of things happening, it's not possible for my surrogates to stand at the podium with perfect accuracy. Now, this is in reaction to the drive-bys literally going hysterical over different versions of stories being told at different times of the day regarding Rosenstein at the Department of Justice and Comey being fired and Trump saying he did it. No, Rosenstein did it. No, I did it. Press secretaries out there trying to keep it all straight. And Trump saying, hey, there's so much going on with me, nobody can keep up. My surrogates don't know what's what from day to day because my presidency, there's lots of stuff happening. I wish people would take a moment to step back and realize what an epic presidency this is. And realize we're never going to see anything like this again in our lifetimes. So we've never had it prior to this in my lifetime. I mean, normally we get idiots like Jimmy Carter who do great damaging things. I mean, while Trump is doing all this, the country is vastly improving. As I have detailed today, some of the core things that were destroying the guts of this country are being reversed. And this is so outside what everybody has accepted as establishmentarian norms. And then the media is acting like it's the end of everything sacred. And I just have to smile at it. No, don't misunderstand. I know there's some serious things going on. This leaking is deadly serious. Pardon. You know, when I laugh, I'm sorry, I get sniffles, folks. But the leaking, which I talked about in the last hour, is a serious thing. You want to hear, speaking of things funny, time to go back to the graveyard of forgotten favorites, my friends, for a feminist update. Here's today's feminist update. According to Gloria Steinem, one of the grandmothers of the modern-day radical feminazi movement, women will never be fully equal to men unless they have abortion rights. What am I missing? Do women not have abortion rights? Or does she mean men? Wait. Radical feminazi Gloria Steinem, women will never be fully equal to men unless they have abortion rights. And who is she talking about here having abortion rights? Because women already do. Men don't have any abortion rights. Men got zero to say about it. Roe versus Wade. Fathers, men, zilch, zero, they've got nothing to say legally. So I don't know what Steinem's talking, but that's not the update. In an interview with Refinery 29, Gloria Steinem shared thoughts on feminazism, and unsurprisingly, everything came back to female reproductive rights. She blamed the lack of women's freedom in reproductive rights as a fundamental cause of climate change. She did. She's 83 years old now. She said, listen, what causes climate deprivation is population. If we had not been systematically forcing women to have children that they don't want, for over 500 years of patriarchy, we wouldn't have the climate problems we have now. Therefore, there have been too many births because women didn't want them. Men made them have the babies. Women didn't want to have the babies. That means there's too many babies, too many adults, too many people, putting too much strain on the infrastructure of the planet, and that's causing global climate change. This is absurd. This is insane. And this is also mainstream feminist belief. This is the kind of rot gut that your little girl learns at institutions of higher learning in women's studies courses. That we haven't had abortion long enough. And if we'd had legal abortion long enough, the last 500 years, we wouldn't be losing the planet. Because we wouldn't have as many people. Because what is destroying the climate? People. Exactly right. People trying to improve their standards of living. People trying to progress. People trying to earn more money and have a greater standard of living are destroying the planet. That's modern-day liberal thinking, as espoused there by the chief feminazi, Gloria Steinem. I take a break. We'll come back and get started on your phone calls next, so hang on. I don't know who's going to do the press briefing today, but I'd like to help. Well, let's say it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And the first question is going to be about the Comey firing. And I would love to hear her say, what difference does it make now? He's gone. We got rid of him. He's been warned about leaking. What else do you need to know? What difference does it make? And now we go to the phones. We're going to start in Morgantown, West Virginia. David, great to have you up first today on the program. It's nice to have you with us.
Hey, mega millennial West Virginia dittos, Rush.
Thank you, sir.
Coal is still America's ace in the hole.
And by the way, it's coming back. That was from yesterday. The oil industry coming back, coal industry coming back, steel industry coming back, jobs are coming back. There's all kinds of great news out there that nobody's hearing about because the drive-bys are obsessed with destroying Trump.
Yes, sir. Hey, my question, Rush, is this.
Yes.
Every single story, I don't care where you hear it, where you read it, there's always an anonymous, unnamed source. In
many cases, only one.
Right.
Not even two or three.
How do we, the public, how does anybody know that Glenn Rush, who sends his paperwork to the Clinton campaign for them to check over it, how do we know these reporters aren't just making it up, dreaming this stuff up just to get at Trump?
Well, I think we know that they are.
An unnamed source.
I think we know that they are. Well, I think one of two things are happening. Either they're making it up or people are leaking lies to them that they are publishing because they want the lies to be true.
Sure.
We know of three instances. We know for a fact that Comey has not asked for more money for the investigation. We know that Rosenstein did not threaten to quit over the White House narrative on how Comey was fired. Yeah, Rosenstein has denied it. He wasn't threatening to quit. McCabe said that the FBI has not asked for more money, that this is not how they get money. They don't come, they don't go to the DOJ and ask for additional money. They come to Congress for their appropriations. There hasn't been any. And the other thing is that the investigation's going on. There hasn't been any attempt by the White House to stop it. There are just three things right there that we've been lied to about just this week alone. Grab audio soundbite number 4. This is Cokie Roberts on ABC's Nightline last. Well, that's how she says it. Cokie Roberts, ABC News, Washington. She said last night, she's asked a question, but who's the correspondent? David Wright says, would Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein have had the same impact in the era of Twitter and so-called fake news? Now, before you don't hit the soundbite, stop and think of that question. These young cub reporters, they love Woodward and Bernstein. You know why? Because they destroyed Nixon. That's one of the great objectives of journalism. Take out a president of the party you oppose. And this guy wants to know if Woodward and Bernstein would have had the same impact in the era of Twitter. And what he's really asking is, can we be Woodward and Bernstein if there's Twitter? Woodward and Bernstein didn't have Twitter to compete with, but now there's Twitter to compete. Could we become Woodward and Bernstein with Twitter? Asking Cokie Roberts. And then, and could Woodward and Bernstein, could they have been what they'd been if there was so much fake news then like there is? This guy wants to be Woodward and Bernstein, but thinks there are too many competitors out there. And here is the answer that we got from Cokie Roberts, ABC News.
We know there's no such thing as fake news. We live in a time when people don't believe facts. And if we can't convince people that facts are facts, that's a very difficult situation.
You heard her say it. We know there's no such thing as fake news. I'm holding in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers a story from ABC News on February 14th, 1994. Many of you will not remember this. ABC World News Tonight executive producer Rick Kaplan and correspondent Cokie Roberts received an official reprimand for staging a Capitol Hill news report on January 26th. Cokie Roberts says there's no such thing as fake news. Yet she staged an entire report. It was really cold on January 26th in Washington. Really, really cold. And Cokie Roberts didn't want to go outside. So they created a set in the ABC broadcast studios on DeSalle Street in Washington, D.C., to make it look like she was standing outside at the Capitol building when she was in the warmth of the ABC broadcast studios. In a memo distributed throughout the news division, ABC News Senior VP Richard Wald called the incident a mistake, adding, even though it had no editorial effect, the action was serious because it misled our audience. A series of ill-considered actions resulted in the deception. Cokie Roberts says there's no such thing as fake news. Mr. Wald, ABC News Senior VP, also wrote in his memo, the people involved bear responsibility for this incident. They have been reprimanded and have expressed regrets to me. They know this is not acceptable conduct. The statement's being sent to everybody on our staff so it doesn't happen again. Here are the details. The incident occurred the day after President Clinton's State of the Union show in 1994. Kaplan had wanted Roberts to do a live report, including crosstalk, with ABC anchorman Peter Jennings from Capitol Hill. But Cokie Roberts had a speaking engagement that night and didn't have time to make the trip across town. Kaplan then instructed her to put on her official journalist trench coat and do the report from the ABC News Washington Bureau in front of a picture of the Capitol building, leaving viewers with the impression that she was there and reporting from on the scene. According to ABC News insiders, Cokie Roberts knew she had made a serious error in judgment right after the report and regretted going along with the gambit. Yeah, somebody else's fault. She had a meeting. She didn't want to go to Capitol Hill. She had an engagement. Somebody made her stay in the studio. On Friday, Roberts and Kaplan released a statement saying that faking the background for the report was a stupid thing to have done. Play audio soundbite number 4 again.
We know there's no such thing as fake news. We live in a time when people don't believe facts. And if we can't convince people that facts are facts, that's a very difficult situation.
Moving on, CBS News this morning, co-host Charlie Rose spoke with Gerald Seib of the Wall Street Journal. He's the Washington bureau chief about the firing of Comey, who has been warned not to leak because Trump may have tapes. Charlie Rose says the acting FBI director, Andrew McCabe, said that the investigation is highly significant. Do you sense from that they have something going on there that leads him to believe that something happened?
I don't know what is believed, but that Director Comey was taking this seriously. He was devoting an increasing amount of time to the investigation. He had sought additional resources for it. So that tells you they're seeing something there that is worth pursuing. This is not going away. I think the key people to watch in Washington right now are a small group of moderate and independent-minded senators on the Republican side, maybe 10, maybe fewer than 10, whose support, I think, is really crucial to the president.
I heard Gerald Seib. Well, I don't know what's believed, but Director Comey was taking this seriously. He was devoting an increasing amount of time. He had sought additional resource. No. McCabe said yesterday he hadn't sought any additional money. In fact, here is local Washington news, WJLA-TV, Eyeball News correspondent Michelle Macaluso speaking with the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein about reports that he had threatened to quit over the handling of Comey's firing. This is how it went.
Mr. Rosenstein, did you threaten to quit over the Comey fallout? Can you say anything as to why you...
No, I'm not quitting.
Did you threaten to quit?
No, I didn't threaten to quit. Comey didn't ask for additional money. I didn't threaten to quit. The investigation has not been tampered with by the Trump administration. Despite Rosenstein's denial, John Karl still reports he was going to quit, despite Rosenstein denying it. John Karl, ABC News.
This came close to escalating into an even bigger crisis. George, I am told that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was so upset with the White House for saying that the firing of Comey was his idea that he was on the verge of resigning.
No, he just said that he wasn't. And he said it during the local news last night versus whenever this was. This is Good Morning America Today. He said it yesterday, and Karl is pretending that Rosenstein never said it. Fake news, Koki. It is Open Line Friday, and I am Rush Limbaugh, a man, a legend, a way of life. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. We go back to the phones. Green Bay. Here is Brian. Welcome to the program. Nice to have you with us.
Rush, it's great to talk to you. This is a thrill.
Thank you, sir, very much.
I got to say happy Mother's Day to my wife and my mom, and I'll go right to the point here.
Wait a minute. Hey, if you're going to say Happy Mother's Day to your mom, you got to tell us her first name. How's she going to know?
Oh, well, my wife's name is Jody, and my mom's name is Pat.
Is Pat. So Jody and Pat. Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right.
This is going to be awesome. They've been talking about this for years.
Well, congratulations to both of them. Sound like you're a great guy to have in their lives.
Well, I like to think so. But my comment was on this. The thing I've been listening to the last few days with the firing of Comey and the poor timing and all this stuff. The whole idea behind this thing, this story was I don't think anyone thought that the story was going to last as long as it was. It was a crazy story. No one thought it was going to last as long as it did.
You mean
There's evidence to it? And when Trump brought it up during the elections, he was laughed. And even we, as Trump supporters, kind of thought, oh, geez, we really stepped into it this time. But let's just hope it kind of goes away a little bit.
Let me step in here because I'm glad you called and said this, because I'll bet you a whole lot of people in the Trump campaign and administration thought the same thing, that this Russia thing, there's nothing there. This has got to die out. And had I been there, had they asked, I would have told them it isn't going to die out, and you had better understand why it's happening, and you'd better come up with some way to get rid of it, because it's going to hang around as long as they can make it effective. It's not based in truth. It's not based in anything. The whole purpose of this is to cast a current, present, never-ending cloud over the legitimacy of Trump's presidency. You're right about Trump making the joke, but nobody outside of the Trump group of people laughed at it. If you go back to that moment, and this was about Hillary Clinton's, she had 60,000 emails on that illegal server, and she had only turned over 30,000 after she had gone through all of them, and she had determined the ones that were relevant for the Department of State to see, and she had gotten rid of the other 30,000 that were just about yoga lessons and Chelsea's wedding and who the hell knows what else. And she told us there's nothing worth seeing there. And we then later learned that they had been deleted. But a lot of computer experts says there's no such thing as literally deleting unless you format that drive. So those emails are somewhere. That begot a discussion of where could they be. And there were fake efforts to find them. The Obama DOJ was not interested in it. The Obama State Department didn't care a rat's rear end about finding them. So Trump, one day, was asked about it. He grew a little frustrated, and he said, if anybody in Russia is listening, maybe you could find these 30,000. And the moment that happened, the media, with total irrationality and hysteria, began the narrative that Trump was in league with the Russians and was guiding them and helping them to produce Hillary's emails. That's one thing that happened. Then the election, the campaign goes on. All during the campaign is fundamentally important. All during the campaign, everybody on the Democrat side, which includes media, pollsters, Democrats, all thought Hillary was going to win and win in a landslide. It was such a foregone conclusion. Hillary did a half-ass campaign. She went dormant for 3-4 days a week. She didn't go to any blue states in the upper Midwest because she thought they were a lock. Trump was in them constantly with 20,000-person rallies. Election night comes, and even up to 9 o'clock in election, you can watch the election returns. Everybody thought Hillary was going to win this in a going-away landslide. And in the 45 days prior to the election, there wasn't a word said about the Russians. Because the Clintons thought they were going to win. They didn't want anybody thinking the election was tainted. What was going on at the third debate, Chris Wallace asked Trump if he would accept the election results on election night. They were trying to paint Trump as unstable, as a radical raconteur, as an upsetter, as somebody who was going to come in and turn everything upside down. And Trump said, no, I will not tell you right now tonight that I will accept the results. I'm not going to tell you I accept them until everything happens and I see what happened. That begot a full month of Hillary Clinton's campaign and the media leading the allegation that Donald Trump was unfit for office because Donald Trump was threatening our very democracy, because Donald Trump was signaling that he would not accept a legitimate election result. And they were explaining what a threat to our very way of life this attitude was. And that was for a full month. There was not a syllable spoken of any concern for the Russians tampering with the election. The talk of the Russians had to do with the tampering of the Democrat National Committee's computer network and the John Podesta emails, but not with the election. And the Clintons thought they were going to win. There was no talk that her win would in any way be illegitimate. Trump is who was going to be illegitimate. They were not worried about the election being hacked by the Russians. They weren't worried about anything because they didn't want to taint their upcoming victory. Well, we all know what happened. Trump wins. He wins in an electoral college landslide. This sent the Clinton campaign into a tailspin, the likes of which we still really don't know. But I'm telling you, they were driven out of their minds. And when that happened, the first thing that occurred to all of them was to come up with a scenario in which they were not to blame for it. They would not allow ongoing stories of the incompetence, say, of Robbie Mook, campaign manager, or any of the pollsters, or any of the consultants, or Hillary herself. The reason for this shocking, nobody saw it coming upset was blamed on the Russians. It's in the book that has been written about the Clinton campaign. And they hatched this idea that the Russians tampered with the election and helped Trump 24 hours after she lost. And it is in the book. And I have it here. I've printed it. Let me find it very quickly. New book shattered by Clinton insiders reveals that blame Russia plan was hatched within 24 hours of the election loss. And I have here a screenshot of the page in the book. The authors detail how Clinton went out of her way to pass blame for her stunning loss on Comey and Russia. She wants to make sure all these, this is very faint type and it's very tiny. It looks like all of these, it looks like narratives get spun the right way. A longtime Clinton confidant is quoted as saying in the book. The book further highlights how Clinton and Russia blame, the Clinton-Russia blame game was a plan hatched by senior campaign staffers John Podesta, and Robbie Mook. The book, written by people embedded in the campaign, say that Mook and Podesta hatched the Comey-Russia narrative as the explanation for Hillary's loss. That's it, folks. That's what, and an investigation that started in July. Obama sicked the DOJ on Trump. There was an Obama administration ordered an investigation of Trump and Russia because of the Podesta emails. This is a hoax. I don't know what you call this. It's a scam. There isn't anything there. And let me remind you again. Here is a quote from Senator Grassley this week on Tuesday. On Tuesday, the president's letter said that Director Comey told him he was not under investigation. Senator Feinstein and I heard nothing that contradicted the president's statement. Now, Mr. Comey is no longer the FBI director, but the FBI should still follow up my advice. It should confirm to the public whether it is or is not investigating the president, because it has failed to make this clear. Speculation has run rampant. Dianne Feinstein and Grassley have both said that nobody has ever indicted Trump in any briefing to them. There has never been any acknowledgement that the investigation into Trump has found anything. And furthermore, Grassley and Feinstein confirmed that Trump is not part of the Russia FBI investigation, just as Trump says. President Trump is not a target, nor is any senior government official. If Comey's account is correct, one source said. Grassley's quote again. On Tuesday, the president's letter said the director Comey told him he was not under investigation. Senator Feinstein and I heard nothing that contradicted the president's statement in any briefing they've had with Comey or anybody else. Now Mr. Comey's no longer the FBI director, but the FBI should still follow my advice. This is Grassley. The FBI should confirm to the public whether it is or is not investigating the president, because it's failed to make this clear. Speculation has run rampant. Dianne Feinstein is the ranking Democrat on this committee, and she is saying nobody has ever come up and testified that they're investigating Trump. They've never said they've got anything on Trump. They don't have anything. This has been open testimony. Comey, all the intelligence guys have all said to date, James Clapper have all said they've seen nothing. No evidence, no proof of any kind of collusion between Trump and Russia. It's a non-story, but yet look at it. Our guy from Green Bay started out saying everybody could have known there was nothing to this. If I'd have been in Trump's inner circle, I would have told them that this was going to go on until they beat it back. And by the way, I heard yesterday, it was in a political story, that Trump is telling me he's surprised that it's gone on this long. He ought not be. If Trump is surprised, then he doesn't have the right people around him. He doesn't have people around him who can tell him who he's up against. He doesn't have people around him who can correctly identify the establishment, what their objectives are, and how they're going about it. Because there's no way this is going away. Now you add Comey to it, there's no way this is going away. They're going to have to beat this back. They're going to have to embarrass and shame the media. The media is not going to give this up. Elijah Cummings said we may not get to the answer for 4 years. There isn't an answer to be found. Not where the word guilt will be used. I have another break. We'll be back after this. Don't go away. And overnight Friday, back to the phones. Rush Limbaugh executing his sign to host duties flawlessly with zero mistakes. The West Village in New York, this is Rebecca. Rebecca, it's great to have you with us. How are you doing?
I am doing so excellent, Rush. Thank you so much for taking my call.
You bet.
All right. Well, first I just want to say that I am a very recent student of yours, and I am probably one of the best students and on top of the deplorable list. So I just want to get that out there. And now my question is, what is socialism? You always hear people comment like, just look at Venezuela. I've heard you say that, I've heard it on Fox News, but in my head I'm like, I just go blank. I'm like, all right, well, what is socialism? What made Venezuela so bad? So that's my main question.
May I ask, you don't have to answer. The reason I'm asking is because it'll help me understand where you're coming from. Can you tell me how old you are, or if you're in college or not?
Yeah. I'm 27, and I am married to a small business owner. She owns a flower shop, Angelica Flowers, and I work with her.
Okay. Did you go to college anywhere?
I did. I went to the University of Akron in Ohio, and I got a bachelor's in exercise science.
Oh, cool. Bachelor's in exercise science. That's something I could study. I could probably benefit from that.
I could tell you all about it, Rush.
All right. Well, the reason I asked your age is because, and you went to college, is because you probably haven't been taught anything about socialism other than positives.
Yes.
And I'm going to need to hold you over through the next hour if you can. If not, we'll call you back when you have time, because I desperately want to explain this to you, because if you're out there asking, it means a lot of people are. The first thing that I would tell you about socialism is that it has never worked a single time in the history of the world. It has never accomplished any of its objectives anywhere in the world. It has not made people prosperous. It has not expanded liberty and freedom. It has not created more open-mindedness and tolerance. Socialism is essentially where the citizens of a country give over their freedom and their individuality to the state. and the state runs and controls, maybe not owns, but runs and controls virtually all of a society's needs and some wants. But the needs is key because it turns everybody into a dependent on government for survival person. It strips them of self-reliance and individuality, and that's just the opener. But hang on if you can, because there's more. It's the fastest 3 hours in media. We already have 2 down. We've got the weekend coming up. 1 big busy broadcast hour to go. We'll be back here with Rebecca in the West Village and explain socialism before you know it. Folks, so hang on. Don't go anywhere. Greetings, my friends. The views expressed by the host on this program make more sense than anything anybody else out there happens to be saying, because the views expressed by the host of this program are the result of a daily, unstoppable, relentless pursuit of the truth. It is Friday.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Right on, right on. Open Line Friday, where callers get to choose whatever they want to talk about. It can ask questions, anything they want. It's a golden opportunity afforded once a week by me, your benevolent dictator host. The telephone number is 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushmo@eibnet.com. And we now return to Rebecca in the West Village, who has called to ask what socialism is. May I ask you, you don't have to answer the question if you don't want to, but would you tell me what you think it is? Not a long, drawn-out answer, but
yeah.
What do you think that it is?
You know, you asked that, but really my brain just goes blank, because in college it just used to be like, oh, socialism, you get like, socialism that helps fund the military. It helps fund like our streets, rebuilding our infrastructure. Like socialism is a good thing. And then
Okay, stop right there. Socialism funds nothing. Capitalism does.
Yes.
Now,
understood.
Here's the thing about socialism is that in practice, as you live it, it is a hideous and demeaning form of government. It is presented as a panacea. It's presented as utopia. It is presented as complete equality, fairness, and sameness. It assumes that individuals are not capable of being fair to each other. It assumes that individuals are not willing to share equally. It assumes that individuals are not capable of making the right decisions to live their lives according to the desires of the state. It presumes that you are incapable of being charitable. It assumes the worst characteristics of people. It is presented as a way of equalizing and leveling everything. And it's presented as, by the people who espouse it, as equality and fairness and prosperity for all, where nobody has anything more than anybody else and nobody has any less than anybody else. And everybody is basically the same and treated the same. Socialism is perhaps, and its offshoots, communism, liberalism, is one of the greatest inventions of violations of human nature that humanity has ever conceived. It denies individuality. It denies the very real fact that we're all different, that we all have different ambitions, different intelligence abilities, different degrees of ambition. It seeks to punish achievement. The one thing about socialism, Rebecca, it never seeks to equalize by elevating those at the bottom. Socialism always attempts to equalize by penalizing the achievers and lowering them so that nobody is better than anybody else. But it's not presented that way. That's what you end up with. It's presented as love, peace, happiness, contentment, no worries. Everybody's going to take care of it for you. The supposed selling point of socialism is that by controlling the economy, the government can make sure that there is no income inequality. The government can make sure that there's no poverty. The government can make sure there's no racism. The government can make sure that there's no bigotry. The government can make sure there's no homophobia. The government can make sure that there is no prejudice of any kind. But what has happened under every socialist regime and communist regime is that the people in power use it to enrich themselves and their friends and family. The Castros have billions. The people running Venezuela, you mentioned them. Hugo Chavez literally absconded with billions of dollars and put the money in Swiss banks while their people starve. The lack of market incentive causes corruption and causes economies to collapse because money will always go where it's treated best. Let me give you a real-life illustration of how it works. And I'm going to use the subject of amnesty for illegal immigrants. This is presented by socialists as the epitome of compassion. Here we have the downtrodden of the world, and all they want is a better life. And they can get it by coming to the United States. And we should welcome them. We should want to share our bounty and wealth. We should be honored that such people wish to come to our country. We are guilted into thinking that there's something wrong with ignoring their violation of law. They immediately, 95% of them, if not more, end up on government assistance of some kind. They are never taught the language, never forced to learn it, and they never actually assimilate into an American culture. The reason that the proponents of amnesty propose it is because, and this gets down and dirty, the Democrat Party, but they're not alone. It's people in the Washington establishment who push amnesty. need, and Jessica, this is fundamental to understand, they need a permanent underclass that is not going to improve, that is not going to become middle class or upper class. They're going to remain just on the verge of poverty. Everything they're going to get in life is going to come from people they vote for, which in this case is largely Democrats, but there are some Republicans who run around and campaign on this basis too. This is where it's hideous. It promises all of these utopian things. It has never delivered anywhere in the world at any time in American or world history. And it keeps people poor. It keeps people in need. It denies them the opportunity to become self-reliant. It denies them the opportunity to increase or improve their standard of living. That's the last thing proponents of amnesty want. They want a never-ending supply of people who are going to remain poor their entire lives and are going to think that their only hope is to vote for people in Washington who are going to continue to provide them with housing, with food, with jobs maybe. But even jobs are not necessary. You can still live a very comfortable life in America on the welfare system without even working. Socialism creates that as well. The socialism has failed for many reasons. It's in direct violation of human nature, number one. It punishes the people who actually make a country work. It punishes the achievers. But even in the most socialist regimes, there are still very rich people, and you can see them. In many cases, they're the leaders or the friends of the leaders. In every social, like in Great Britain, socialized medicine. But not everybody has to use it. The people who can afford their own have the best health care in the world in Britain, but they're not part of the British health system. Ditto Canada, and we're headed that way here. There are always rich people, and there are always gigantic mansions and houses, and there are always very expensive cars that everybody sees that they'll never be able to afford, and they wonder why. How did those people get it? How do they have that nice house? How do they get to go to all these vacations? How do they have that big car when I can't? It breaks down because it enforces inequality. It does the exact opposite of what it says. And while all this happens, it strips away the humanity of as many citizens who fall prey to it. When they deny your individuality, when they deny self-reliance is a factor, when they deny hard work, when they deny achievement, they essentially kill it. And it is one of the most dehumanizing forms of government because it leads to communism, which is where they build walls to keep people in so that they can't escape it.
Scary thing. It's
very scary, and we're way too close to it here. We're not there, but there are current leaders in our political system who can't wait for us to get there. Nationalized health care is one of the fastest routes to a socialized country that you can get.
Yeah.
You know why?
Why?
Very simple. The first thing they do is price health care out of the individual's ability to pay for it. Therefore, the individual needs assistance. The insurance companies are demonized as mean-spirited and want their customers to die. They end up having to turn to where? The government, who you love. The government's taking care of me. The government cares about me. I'm getting my health care and health insurance through the government. Well,
so Rush.
Yes.
How do we get people to understand the beauty and the power and the greatness of capitalism? Like, what can I do every day? Because you try to explain that to someone, obviously they don't want to listen, because that's such a beautiful explanation, but I always feel caught. Like, how do I make someone understand what we can be and what we're going to be if we don't do anything? It's just so frustrating, a frustrating line.
Well, the first thing that we're going to have to do if we want to long-term reverse it is retake the American education system, because socialism is taught, it is romanticized, it is inculcated, it's lied about, and from daycare on, the concepts of socialism. When when I hear millennials, you're a millennial, when I hear millennials talking about equality and fairness, I know that they've been had. Their minds, their young skulls full of mush have been co-opted. Socialism.
I used to be there. You changed me.
Yeah, fairness and equality. And, of course, in socialism, there isn't any fairness for a lot of people. And there certainly isn't equality. People are always trying to escape it. There's always going to be a certain percentage of any population that's been socialized that refuse to accept it. And they're going to do everything they can to escape it, using their initiative, using their intelligence, using their bravery and their courage. Now, how do we overcome it? How do you overcome years and years and years of propaganda? In your case, you and your wife, the best thing you can do, you have a small business, right?
Yes.
How much of your small business is controlled, do you think, by the city of New York and federal regulations and so forth? I mean, how many limitations do you have to deal with in doing business every day?
Honestly, Rush, I wouldn't know. That'd be a question for my wife. I don't do the paperwork, but I could tell you I get a lot of parking.
Well, she would know. The bottom line is I've always thought that, but it's not true in a lot of cases. The way to overcome this stuff is just live your life in your own freedom and your own individuality, and let your life, your prosperity, your success, your character speak for you, and have that be influential. It's much more effective leading by example than preaching to people. You know, wagging a finger in their face and telling them they're wrong never works. That's true. It just gets their resistance up. But by the same token, where we are now, they've been so effective that the more people around them who are successful, the more that is resented and hated as unfair and so forth.
Well, Rush, I really want to thank you for your time, most importantly, and your incredible wisdom. You have expanded my mind more than school or anything has ever done, so I genuinely appreciate it. And that caller that was crying last week, I felt it in my heart. You are a very special man, and I hope you know that.
Oh, man, I am so appreciative. I don't know what to say to these things other than thank you. It boggles my mind. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. That's why I have these enormous performance expectations I put on myself here every day, because I know people's expectations. I cannot thank you enough.
Yeah. Because of you, I'm going to do something great someday. So thank you.
You know, if you think you will, you will. If you want to, you will. That's another thing about socialism. Socialism beats that kind of thinking down. It makes that kind of thinking seem futile. And in the worst case, it makes that kind of thinking unfair and selfish. Why should you succeed when person X over there doesn't? Why should you have whatever you have when they don't? It's not fair. Therefore, somebody should come and take it away from you, not teach them how to also get it. That's the real secret to the Democrat Party. They want to equalize everybody by lowering everybody's standard of living and calling it equal. I call it equality equals sharing misery equally, because nobody's happy in socialism.
Right on, Rush, right on.
Right on, dude. Right. Thank you very much, Rebecca. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Bye, Rush. Listen to you later and tomorrow and every other day.
Thank you much again. And we will take a brief time out. Back right after this. And we're back. And it was predicted that drive-bys have become hysterical over Trump's tweet that Comey had better be careful if he starts leaking, because there might be tapes. Spicer's back doing the daily briefing. Here's just a sample.
I assume you're referring to the tweet, and I've talked to the president. The president has nothing further to add on that.
Why did he say that? Why did he tweet that? What should we interpret from that?
As I mentioned, the president has nothing further to add on that.
Are there recording devices in the Oval Office or in the residence?
As I said for the third time, there is nothing further to add on that.
Does he think it's appropriate to threaten someone like Mr. Comey not to speak?
I don't think that's not a threat. He's simply stated a fact. The tweet speaks for itself. I'm moving on.
I like the way they're playing this. There's nothing more to say. The president will have nothing further to add. What does he feel he can threaten Nothing further to add. What do you mean he thinks it's appropriate to threaten somebody like Comey not to speak? It's not a threat. It's simply a fact. Tweet speaks for itself. I'm moving on. The president has nothing further to add. Look, folks, I'm not sitting here naive. It could well be that the Trump White House out of control. Hell, who knows? I'm still telling you this is fun to watch this aspect. I'm having fun watching the media spin out of control. Whoever else is also. Because I'm telling you, on the other side of this, there is all kinds of good news happening that is related to the Trump agenda. I've shared it already today. If you missed it, check RushLimbaugh.com later as we update the site. We update it much more frequently now. That we can update it practically instantly. We have to wait till the end of the day for the whole show to be upgraded. It's well worth the contrast that we've made today, taking note of it if you missed it. It's Open Line Friday. Rush Limbaugh with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. Catherine Herridge, Fox News, has an interesting take. As I said, there's all kinds of upbeat Trump news when it comes to even the Comey story. Catherine Herridge has one here, and I have to tell, I was a little stunned. There are two columns in the Wall Street Journal, one by Kimberly Strassel. Hers doesn't surprise me. The other one is by Daniel Henninger, and his does surprise me. They are both in support of Trump firing Comey, and they give details why. They're great reading. Now, the Wall Street Journal is behind a paywall. As a powerful, influential member of the media, I, of course, have a subscription. But they're behind a paywall here. I can't read all of these to you, but they are both fascinating. They cut totally against the grain of the drive-by media out there today. And Paul Sperry has a good one in the New York Post as well. Something Sean Spicer, doing the press briefing today, just said that Trump is dismayed at the response the media has to the press briefings that have been done by Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Spicer. And, really, how can you not be? These same people, do you remember what lapdogs they were for Obama? I mean, it's like they were not even there. Obama would get questions, what is the most enlightening part of the presidency for you? What do you find the most enriching aspects of the presidency to be? I mean, it was sickening, sycophancy. It was just, folks, it was like watching puke to watch one of these press conferences with the drive-bys, just salivating, just kissing up to Obama and apple-nosing around or whatever. It was just sickening. There was never any doubt. There was never any disbelief. There was never any holding Obama accountable. And all there is now is hysteria. And it's all rooted in the fact that Trump is lying, and his staff is lying, and Trump's hiding things, and Trump's in scandal, and Trump's covering up, Trump's a pig. Now, the Catherine Herridge story, Comey firing could spur a new review of Clinton case and immunity deals. President Trump's decision to fire Comey touched off widespread speculation in Washington over what will happen to the FBI's Russia probe. But the prospect of new leadership of the FBI also could hold implications for the closed Hillary Clinton email case. Brian Widener, veteran former FBI agent, suggested both the case and the immunity deals struck that during that investigation could be revisited. Now, our buddy J. Christian Adams says that that's dreaming, that there is no way. Grab audio soundbite number 16. This was on Fox and Friends today. Steve Doocy, before he caught the plane to come to Florida, was talking to J. Christian Adams, Public Interest Legal Foundation. He said, what do you think of the possibility the FBI under new management, they might actually go back and Say, look at Hillary's email investigation, the immunity, her lieutenants, and maybe look at all that all over again.
I think there's next to zero chance of that happening. That's in the past. You know, if Hillary is going to be prosecuted, it should have been chugging along the tracks already. But remember, James Comey read a word into the statute that didn't exist, namely that they had to prove she intended to hurt national security, that Loretta Lynch wasn't going to go forward with that case because of an imaginary law. Look, immunity deals, these folks who got immunity deals, it's very hard to end an immunity deal.
Oh, that's it. Well, it is hard to end an immunity deal unless you do something that violates the immunity, but he's probably right. But there, nevertheless, are still people in the FBI. I mean, this is somebody spoke to Catherine Herridge, and by name, not an anonymous source, who said, you get somebody else in there, because a lot of people think that Comey was covering up or shielding or protecting the Clintons. And then, by the way, both Strassel and Henniger, Strassel for sure, harp on what an outrage it was for Bill Clinton to communicate with Loretta Lynch on that airplane on the tarmac in Phoenix, and for nothing to happen. You talk about tampering, witness tampering, any of a number of things, and for nothing to happen there. I still say that the real crimes in all of this were papered over and ignored, and that's Hillary and her servant. Look at it again, folks. We wouldn't even be here if that woman hadn't been so arrogant and condescending to think up she could set up her own network and have her own private network dealing in classified data that she didn't have to make part of the government network or system. The continuing arrogance and attitude the Clintons have that we're above the law, that's why we're all here. And the purpose of all of this, well, there are many purposes to it, but one of the purposes of continuing to focus on Trump and the Russians is for the establishment in Washington to circle its wagons and protect one of its own, Hillary and, of course, all of the Clintons. No doubt in my mind. Back to the phones. This is Inola, Oklahoma. Steve, you're next. I'm glad you waited. Thank you.
Thank you, Rush, for taking my call. In a previous segment, you read a statement by Gloria Steinem, and where she talked about in her statement about feminism, abortion, and climate control. Well, in her statement, she contradicted a major argument used by the abortion industry to support their position. They have stated that abortion is not for population control, but for the health and safety of the mother. And she affirmed that they believe abortion is for population control, and population control is one of the major foundational reasons Margaret Sanger founded Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, which population was targeted? Do you remember?
That's the question. Which population groups do they want to control now?
Well, back in Margaret Sanger's day, it was the African-American population that they wanted to diminish.
That's right. And so they see this. They've always said it's for the health and safety of the mother, and that it's not a child. But now she, in her statement that you read in the earlier segment today, she acknowledged that we're killing. You know, they're aborting people, they're killing people, and they're fine with that because they see that if they would have been able to have feminism and abortion, and we wouldn't have such a strain on our.
No, this is exactly right. What she was making the case that had there been legalized abortion for many, many more years, we would have had much more effective population control and less pressure on the climate, less pressure on the planet. He's exactly right. In the modern era, they've done everything they can to get away from the reasons Margaret Sanger created Planned Parenthood in the first place. It was population control, eugenics, and all of that. And the modern era feminazis took it over and they repositioned it and tried to make it look like it was all about women's rights. And a woman's right to do with her body whatever she wants to do, and nobody can say otherwise. You're right, she slipped up because she did acknowledge that abortion originally was looked at as population control. When she says that we would be much less inclined to global warming if there had been many more abortions because we'd have many fewer people. I don't care where you come from. These people are insidious. No matter how often they step in it or however much hypocrisy they engage in, there still is no pleasant way to describe what they actually do, what their actual political purpose is in the pro-abort industry. And believe me, it's not a rights issue. That's just what they say it is. That's just how they sell it. It is pure 100% politics, plus a little racism thrown in. Listen to Bob Schieffer here. You know, the Jurassic Park anchor from CBS, used to be on Deface the Nation. He was on CBS this morning. Gayle King, that's Oprah's BFF, said, "Hey, Bob, is it fair to compare Trump to Nixon?"
There are many parallels to Watergate, but I have to tell you, I think all the way back to the Kennedy assassination to draw parallels. I was there, as you know. I have always felt if Lee Harvey Oswald had been put on trial, a lot of these conspiracy theories that are still circulating today would have been put at rest then. It is absolutely imperative that Donald Trump find a way to reassure the American people that these questions about Russia are not true, if that is his version. He's got to lay it all out. He's got to show them some proof. He's got to give them some reason to believe that these things are not true.
That's not how it works, Bob. For crying out loud, we're now going to compare this to the Kennedy assassination and Oswald? Who's in the grassy knoll in this story? The Russian ambassador? Who's up there? You cannot. That's why our justice system is the way it is. You cannot prove a negative. The accusers have to be the ones that prove it. Trump can't prove anything. These clowns, how in the world can you have proof you didn't do something? That's the whole point. The accusers have to prove it. And by the way, Bob, even if there had been a trial, there would still be conspiracy theorists. You know why, Bob? Because Oswald was a commie pinko SOB. And you people in the Northeast were never going to stand pat for a communist assassinating JFK. You people were always going to try to trigger this off on some wacko conservative group in Texas. In fact, I think that's the birth of the modern era of the current crop of liberals. They could not abide the fact that a communist, they loved the communists back in 1959, that a communist insulted their favorite president. No way, Mabel, that's not going to get a foothold. So the day after the assassination, there are columns on the front page of the New York Times trying to place Oswald as an extreme right-winger. He wasn't. He was a communist. If there had been a trial and Oswald had been found, well, they wouldn't allow Oswald to be found guilty simply because he was a communist. But if he had been, that wouldn't have stopped any conspiracy theories. There would have still been a bunch of wackos. He said he was a fall guy. But just this analogy alone, Trump has to prove there's nothing to these allegations to shut down all of this. Otherwise, the American people need closure. The American people need to know that Trump didn't do it. How does he prove it, Bob? How would he prove it to you, Bob? What could Trump do to convince you? What would he have to say? What documents would he have to produce? How would he prove it, Bob? He's denied it every chance he's got. You guys who are alleging it have yet to produce any evidence. It seems to me, Bob, that the onus is on all of you. ABC News has a story that Comey is livid, outraged at the way he was treated by Trump. Except Comey's letter to the FBI doesn't say that at all. Comey's letter to the FBI is very mild. It says the president can do what he wants to whoever, whenever. So where's this coming from? There must be 14 single anonymous sources cited in this story. See you Monday, folks.